Welcome, everyone, to the Pockets of Knowledge podcast. I'm your host, Desiree Stanley, and today marks an incredible milestone, the 100th episode of the show. I'm thrilled to have you with us today. I want to start by saying a heartfelt thank you to all of my amazing guests and each and every one of you who have tuned in, whether you've been with us from the beginning or you've just discovered the show now. Your support is not just appreciated, it's cherished. To those of you who have taken the time to leave a comment or share your thoughts in the reviews, I can't tell you how much I appreciate your feedback. Your lovely comments, insights, and encouragement have helped shape this podcast into what it is today. And I'm so grateful for this incredible show that we've built together. So here's to you, my guests, listeners, commenters, and everyone who's been a part of this journey. Here's to 100 more episodes of learning, growing, and discovering together. Thank you for being here and making this moment possible. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Pockets of Knowledge podcast. I'm your host, Desiree Stanley, here to share some amazing conversations. We're talking business, health, making and saving money, or starting something epic. Think of this as your go-to spot for stories that do a lot more than just kill time. They spark ideas, give you a boost, and perhaps even change the way you look at the world. I'm pulling in the experts, the thinkers, the doers, and the dreamers. We're about to dive into stories that open doors and ideas that light up your brain. Here we go. Welcome, everyone, to the Pockets of Knowledge podcast. I'm your host, Desiree Stanley, and with me today is my guest, Jan Carmanico-Reeves. How are you today, Jan?
I'm great, Desiree. Thank you for having me on today.
Wonderful. I am excited for our conversation today. And Jan, you are the owner and founder of Abode Investments, and you have over 40 years of experience in real estate and business, investing. And so we're going to be talking about that specifically and Abode Investments, as well as your YouTube channel and the information that you share on there. And so I am looking forward to this conversation. So again, welcome. And I'd love to have you start by sharing a little bit of your journey with us. Where did you start? How did you get here? And what happened in between?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I love to share my story with other people and hopefully inspire them to realize that real estate investing is a possibility for anybody, even with no money. Yeah, anyways, as a young girl, my father owned investment properties, but recently I just had a conversation with him. It was funny because I said, Dad, if only you had kept that 12-unit building that you had, because he moved out of town. And I said, you could have had a property manager. And he said, when I bought it, he said, the friend of his said, Al, you went too small with a 12-unit because you need at least 20 units to be able to afford or for it to sustain a property manager, right?
Mhm.
After all the learning that I've been doing recently, I was surprised that he knew that way back when. And then he told me when he sold it, he actually did a VTB, which I'll get into later, which is a vendor take back mortgage to allow the sale to go through, because otherwise it wouldn't have gone through. So anyways, that's what planted the seed in me way back when. He wanted me to get into investing when I was, 20. And I'm like, yeah, right, Dad. Right. But however, now my daughters are saying the same to me. However, so all my life I've been in business. I started out with a paper route when I was 10. I liked being my own boss, being in control of how much money I made. I got into being a salon owner. I started out in high school. I did an apprenticeship and quickly went into the self-employment, renting a chair, and then quickly from there went into being a salon owner. So then it came to a point in my life where I was single, okay, and knew I needed a retirement plan, shall we say, and I knew that this was a great idea to invest in real estate investing from my background. So that's when I purchased my first property. It was a student rental just before COVID. So I had purchased that, and then COVID happened. I took that opportunity during COVID to really dive into education, joining some real estate groups, some mentoring, becoming part of two different large communities to really be able to leverage the knowledge that they had and the education. And I took that time, my downtime, because of course we were in lockdowns, right? And yeah, so I really took advantage of that time to get into knowledge and learning about investing.
Yeah. Oh, that's great, Jan. Thank you for sharing that with us. And it sounds like right from early days, you were that entrepreneurial spirit and, didn't want to work for anybody else and wanted to be in charge of your future. And so I love that, story about, having a paper route and your dad wanting to have you get in right away in investing in properties. And sometimes we kind of go, I really should have listened to my dad, or I really should have listened to what my mom said. And we sort of regret maybe not following the paths that they suggested, but we have to take the route that, we're going to take, right?
Right. It
In
wasn't the right
this life.
time. Yeah. Yeah. It just wasn't the right time. So yeah, it is what it is, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And that is true too. Sometimes it just isn't the right time for us to make that decision or that choice. It's got to come later or it doesn't come at all. And that's just the way it's going to be. And so that's something important to remember and, maybe not beat ourselves up about. But, I want to ask you about the real estate investing. And firstly, I think we'd like to share that you are in Canada. And
Correct.
so some of what you're going to be talking about may not be directly you carry over to the United States in terms of real estate investing, but this is concepts that we're talking about and ideas about real estate investing that we think you can explore as options for investing in the US. And so I want to get that right out to
Yeah.
start.
Great.
But let's talk about the principles in real estate investing and have you share what you've learned about investing in real estate that you think the listeners should know.
As far as starting out
Yeah.
in real estate investing, again, I use the power of joining communities and knowledge. I highly recommend that. The cost of joining or the investment of it in joining communities can save you thousands of dollars. And not only that, it gives you the education because, like I was saying earlier, you don't know what you don't know, right? And when you see new people coming into the community and their eyes just like bug out, you can really do that. And that's legal. And, like and we learned too that collaboration, there's a saying in the community, there's enough real estate to go around. We don't compete with each other, we collaborate. So it's better to own the slice of a watermelon as opposed to a whole grape, right? So you bring people who are stronger maybe in one part, bring several people together. Like it's limitless how you can put together a deal in real estate investing, but really collaboration is key. And teamwork is the dream work, they say, right?
Yeah, that's a great point. In harnessing the knowledge that other people have and are willing to share is hugely important because it can get you further ahead much faster than if you were trying to do this all on your own. So joining groups that are there specifically to help others share this information is going to be, a fantastic game changer for you. So that's a great point.
Yeah.
And the idea of how you can collaborate with other people in these groups to maybe create an investment pool and together maybe purchase properties. That's something else, the potential there as well.
Right. And it's quite common for there to be a money partner and a working partner, right? Because there's several professionals who have a fair amount of capital to invest that, if they're investing in the stock market, it's a lot more volatile. This is a solid investment. It's bricks and mortar. It's, history has shown that real estate is a great investment. So they might not have the time to research the market, to find great deals, to put the deals together, to do the financing. So they can just write a check. I mean, this is about building a relationship with somebody. Obviously, you have to get to know somebody well. You're not going to write me a check today, that we've just met. But it's really about developing relationships with people so they know what you're all about. And even as a working partner, to learn what the investor's all about and what their objectives are when they want their money back, what kind of funds they're using. Is it cash? Is it registered funds? All different kinds of things like that. Are they using a HELOC, a home equity line of credit, that they need monthly payments on to cover their interest charges? There's all kinds of different things like that, that as a working partner, you need to know the needs of your investor and what would align with their investment goals.
Yeah, great point for sure.
Mhm.
Knowing what you want to accomplish if you are the investor. What is your goal with this investment, and understanding, like you just shared, if you're borrowing money on an existing property using a HELOC, home equity line of credit, you've got to be able to get money back to pay that loan back. And so that's an important factor in the decision about what you're going to invest in. So great point there. And so let's talk then, because this is a little bit of creative financing, right? Ways that we can find money that is ours, so to speak.
Yes,
But it doesn't have to be liquid cash in our bank account right this second. So share a little
absolutely.
bit more.
Yeah, that's my expertise, right? Is creative financing, because I've been self-employed. I don't know about in the States, but in Canada, it's very difficult to get mortgages. All kinds of unsecured credit. I've got a great credit rating, but for whatever reason, they don't like to give me mortgages that are secured against property. So I've had to get a little bit creative with finding money. And I think people don't realize that there are tools like your HELOC. The first thing that we're taught in real estate investing is tap into the equity in your home. Whereas most people are always taught, especially Canadians, like the ultimate goal is to pay off your mortgage, right? I know in the US, you can use that as a tax deduction. In Canada, you can't on your primary residence. However, on a HELOC, you can use that to invest, and you can write off that interest if you're using it as an investment. Like we can use registered funds. We have our SPs, like you have an 401k. So we can use those actually, and it's not cashing them in. They're still under the RRSP umbrella, but we can use those to invest, not in our own projects, but maybe in a syndicated mortgage, or there's different investments that are registered funds eligible. So that's another thing, because and again, it's cross-border. I think you have a GIC, a guaranteed income certificate. It's just like parking your money in the bank, and for maybe a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 year term, and you're guaranteed 3% interest or 1.5%, and something crazy like that. And that can be in registered funds or in cash. But if you invested that in real estate, your returns can be incredible, 20% plus, right? Year over year. And there's so many ways to win in real estate, because you're not just making money back on your investment. Your tenants are paying down your mortgage. So that's another way. The asset is just naturally appreciating over time. Like, it's not very often during history that the value of real estate goes down. There may be a little bit of a dip here and there, but it's always going back up. So if it's a long-term strategy, which real estate investing should be, you buy and hold. So over time, your asset value is going up, your mortgage is getting paid down. And then there's also forced appreciation, where you do, say, like a renovation on the property. So you might invest $10,000. However, then you make the asset worth $50,000 more. So when you go back to refinance it, you can refinance on the new value. You can charge a higher rent because it's a nicer unit. And so there's so many ways to be able to increase the value of real estate and make money in it. It's really, truly is mind-blowing.
Yeah, that is for sure. And there's a couple of things in there that I wanted to share for the US listeners. You're going to want to be talking to a realtor, somebody who has knowledge of the market, in your area or the area that you're interested in investing in, you're going to want to be talking with CPA, certified public accountant, somebody who's going to understand your financial picture. You may want to speak to an attorney as well and get their feedback on some of this. And so just so you're covering your bases and making sure that you're understanding fully what it is that you're doing, and having these people also be your partner in achieving the goals that you have set for yourself. So that's, one point. And then the other point about the home market has always gone up. So if you look at like 100-year picture, as long as they've been, tracking this, it has gone up. Yes, 2008, 9, 10, 11, we had a huge drop off, but that, over the course of 100 years has been the blip. Every other time has just been going up. And so you've got to take that into consideration. And as you shared, that real estate being a long-term investment strategy, you're going to gain. You're going to make gains.
Yeah, it's probably one of the safest things that you can invest in over a long period of time.
Yeah, for sure.
To increase, for sure. Very important, building your team, your professional team. And I would recommend a real estate investment focused realtor. Yeah, because it's quite different when you're looking for your personal, family home. What you're looking for is much different. When you're looking for an investment property, it's all about the numbers. That you have to take the emotions out of it, and you have to look at it quite differently than you would the home that you're buying to, house your family.
Yes. Yeah. Excellent point, Jan. Thank you for taking the time to really go into that a little bit more. You're absolutely correct. The home that you're buying, that you and your family will be living in, is not the same property that you would be buying necessarily for an investment. And so that's absolutely important, that the strategy that you use is going to be different. So you want to make sure that your realtor is really thoroughly knowledgeable about investing in investment properties specifically. So great point. Let's talk a little bit about how you pivoted, because you shared with us about your career as a salon owner, and then getting into, real estate, more specifically investing. And when did that happen and why?
Again, I found myself single. I think that was the first pivot, without any kind of pension plan. Had spent several years raising my daughters, getting them through post-secondary education, keeping them in their activities. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, that next birthday coming up, it's a really big one. So I better really start to concentrate on this. Again, that's when I bought my first investment property using a private mortgage. Maybe we'll stay away from the creative financing part for now. And that's when COVID happened. So I knew that I really needed, like now, a second income source, and I really needed to take this seriously. So that's when I really took the time to, like I said, to get the mentoring and the coaching, joining the communities to learn. There's so much to learn. It's crazy. Surrounding myself with like-minded individuals, and the individuals seem to go up in caliber as you scale your portfolio, right? Because you want to be around people who have done bigger, more creative deals to, be able to leverage their knowledge, or to joint venture with them, collaborate with them on different deals. Yeah, that's when I learned how to leverage my first property to buy a second property. I learned how to refinance my home to be able to use my HELOC for renovations so that I could increase the value of my 6-unit to turn it into a 7-unit, and then be able to go back to the bank to refinance it at the new value. So those are some of the things that I learned when I pivoted from. Now I still operate my salon, love it, and I love real estate investing. So I'm very fortunate. I have, 2 solid income sources that I love to spend time with every single day.
Yeah. That's excellent. And thank you for sharing that with us, that it's not that you closed the salon down or stopped working on that income stream. You have kept that as well as the real estate investing. So if somebody has, say, a full-time job, they can still do real estate investing as well as an additional income stream. It just may look a little different in terms of the time they're investing in that. And they may need to lean on the partners a little bit more to help them reach some of those goals. But still, the point of this is to have people open their mind to new ideas and concepts and ways of allowing these things to happen, right?
Absolutely. And a really key point too, and having been in business all these years, is Who Not How. I don't know if you've read that book. It's a great book, right? But finding people to do tasks that are maybe not your favorite things to do. You're capable of doing them, but farm them out. Let somebody else do them so you can do what you're really good at and they can do what they're really good at, and just grow your team, because growing your team gives you more time. It buys you time back, right? So that you can do the things that you're really good at and love to do.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion on that book. And other guests have also offered that for the listeners to check out. And it is a fantastic book, Who Not How. And I think what's important about that also is we sometimes get caught up in I don't know how to do something, and so I'm not going to do it.
Right.
And, that book also offers an opportunity. You don't need to know how. Find
Exactly.
somebody who already does.
Yes. Yes, and loves to do it and is really good at it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, for
Yeah.
sure. So let's talk about this, because it can be very overwhelming, managing properties as an investor. And so what would you say might be some suggestions that you have for people who are looking to invest or are already investing to make it not so overwhelming?
Okay. So the first thing I would say is hire a property manager, right? To deal with your day-to-day tasks. The amount of time that you will spend versus the amount of time, because they have all the systems in place. Things are automated. They have a team built to take care of, all kinds of little day-to-day tasks, showing properties to a new tenant, all those kind of things. Yeah, so I would say that's the number one thing. And who, not how. Even if you are managing your own properties, find somebody to, like, for myself, I have somebody that cuts the grass. I have somebody that goes in and cleans the units in between tenants. I have a handyman. I've got a plumber, an electrician, all those kind of things, right? Because you can't do everything. If you really want to make this a business, if you really want to scale, there's only so many hours in a day. So it's really building that strong team to who, not how. It's basically what it goes back to, right?
Yeah. No, that's absolutely
Yeah.
true.
Somebody cut the grass, somebody, like all those little tasks that
Yeah. And those property managers have people already
in
that
place,
do all those things,
right?
right? So you're not trying to track everybody that's handling these things. If you have a property manager, that's what they are doing. And so you don't have to be responsible for tracking everybody doing everything. The property
Exactly.
manager is handling that for you. So great point. So I think I want to ask then, how do you maybe transition from, if you're the one who's doing all of that, to finding somebody to do it for you?
That's the power of networking, right?
Mhm.
Is referrals is probably the best thing. I'm a community leader of one of the communities that I belong to within my area. I'm actually hosting a golf and winery event this weekend, which is going to be fun. So talking to people, because even within my community, there's people coast to coast and in the United States as well, right? And there's also Canadians investing in the US. That's quite common in both the groups that I'm in. So that's your network, and tapping into your network to see, okay, who's got properties in Texas, who can, recommend a property manager or somebody to do a major renovation, who's a great contractor, what financial institution are you dealing with? What, what lawyer or attorney,
Yeah.
did you use? What real estate realtor did you use? That's an investor focused realtor, in that area. So they know the market, they know, and because a realtor is really important to go through the properties, to be able to have a vision for what can happen with that property. It might be adding another unit. It might be, turning over tenants. It might be doing renovations. It might be a vacant property that needs a major renovation, but then you can refinance it. So that's really your network will bring you all those things that you need.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point.
Yeah, they're already vetted, right, by other people who have used them.
Yeah,
So that's great.
absolutely. And we know just even in our daily lives, we often ask friends, neighbors, who do you use for this? Who could you
Exactly.
recommend for that? And so here's
Yeah.
another example. You're just specifically looking at this real estate, market investing, that kind of thing. And so you're asking for those specific referrals, people who are trusted. And yeah, so great point.
Yeah, yeah. The stylist as well. I mean,
Yeah,
that's a common activity in my day to day. People come to
absolutely.
me and say, "Oh, where's the best pizza place, or where's a good seamstress, or where do you get your lashes done?" Like that kind
Yeah.
of thing, right? So that's, yeah.
100%. I agree with that for sure. So let's talk a little bit now about the YouTube channel that you have. And I'd love for you to share with the listeners what it is what it's called, first of all,
Okay.
and what you discuss on the show and how often you are sharing episodes.
Okay, great. Thank you. So it's called Investing with Jan. And it's a Monday night live. I have a Facebook group. It's called Motivational Mondays. So I stream it through Zoom onto my personal Facebook page and on my Motivational Mondays. And then later they're uploaded to YouTube. Have a thumbnail created. And so every Friday they're uploaded. So subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss any episodes. So what I do is I have guests on, many real estate investors, not all, and it's basically about mindset and staying positive. We discuss books, we discuss apps, we discuss life events that maybe change their mindset and just day-to-day life. And it's just inspirational stories and just sharing the things that work for them, the Miracle Morning, the I Am app, great books, The Gap and the Gain, measuring yourself backwards instead of forward. Yeah, so it's just having guests on sharing their inspirational stories about having a positive mindset and maybe what helps keep them thinking positive and what may have shifted that mindset at some time. Typically a life event, sometimes a health issue, sometimes a marital issue, sometimes an addiction issue, whatever it may be, a new immigrant, all different kinds of things. And how it came about and what inspired them to change their thoughts and what they do daily to keep that mindset.
Jan, that sounds awesome. I will link all that information in the show notes for the listeners to check out because it does sound amazing. And you mentioned in there the book Miracle Morning. And I had discovered this probably about 5 or 6 years ago. Great book. I highly recommend it. I listen to Hal Elrod's podcast consistently because he's fantastic. And, the I Am app as well is another great one for really positive, affirming things that you can say to yourself to change your mindset. And so that's another fantastic recommendation. I'll include that for sure. Can you share with us what you have seen in these, 40 years of real estate investing and how it's changed? Because it's been pretty dramatic. And let's talk about trends maybe that you're seeing also for the future.
Okay, yeah, real estate has changed a lot. And I think recently it really has increased in value quicker than previously, right? We say when's the best time to buy real estate was 20 years ago, but when's the second best time? today, because it's just going to go up, right? And when's the best time to sell is never, right? Just buy and hold. I see now things are becoming automated. They're, especially with COVID, everything went online. So now you can do virtual walkthroughs. You can, search the properties online. You can have Zoom meetings. You can do all these kind of things that even your bookkeeping everything can be virtual, everything can be uploaded. I see the trend in multi-generational family homes, right? Because kind of like in China, people have multi-generational mortgages because they can never be paid off, right? Now here, it's people are buying homes with maybe 3 generations of families, especially, which is much more common on the other side of the ocean. And here, people aren't used to that, but you're seeing children who are, in their late 20s into their 30s still at home because they can't afford to buy a home. So, and sometimes, their parents may have to move in with them, so there's secondary suites. But yeah, it's quite common. The other big change is there's so many people working from home. Right. So, and that all started during COVID as well. And during COVID, people wanted to be able to enjoy their backyards. There was pools and hot tubs. And I moved during COVID and I waited 10 months to get my hot tub to be delivered because they just weren't accessible. Right. So yeah, that people are looking for home offices in their homes and multi-generational, and that's in single family dwelling. Now, there's also a trend that young people, they're not even interested in purchasing a home. They just want to live in an apartment. So that's great for investors, but they want a nice, they want dishwashers and in-suite laundry, and they want a nice, bright, open space with lots of closets and maybe a gym in there, or some properties are even making a deal with the gym down the block to offer like a discount to their tenants, different things like that. So it's really changing, say maybe from the last 50 years, how there was, you got married, you bought your house, you lived there for for your whole life, raised your children there. But yeah, I think bigger homes, multi-generational workspaces at home, and yeah, the new builds and providing really beautiful spaces for people who just want that to be their home for the rest of their life, or maybe until they have children and then they want to rent a bigger place. But yeah, not looking for home ownership.
Yeah, though you made some great points in there, Jan, for sure. First of all, you don't wait to buy real estate. You buy real estate and wait. And
Exactly.
that's, yeah,
Exactly.
that is, hello.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to wait until the rate goes down. Everybody wants to wait until the prices go down. It's not going to happen like that. You need to buy real estate now, and those things will fluctuate. You can always refinance later. If you need to sell the home and cash out, now you're going to have more money because the price of the home is going to go up from when you bought it. And your point about the best time to buy a home was 20 years ago. It may not have been 20 years ago exactly, but it could have been 30 years ago or 40 years ago.
Right,
You'd be swimming in money at this point
exactly.
if you had a property that you've owned for that period of time, because the prices have gone up so much.
And if you
Yeah,
owned
that's
20 years ago, right?
yeah, yeah.
Cool, right? Yeah.
It's a great point for sure. And I absolutely agree. And that expression, when's it really originated, I think, from when was the best time to plant a tree? It was 20 years ago. The next best time is right now. So it applies to real estate and purchasing properties as well. I 100% agree with that. And the point that you made also about younger generations not being able to afford to buy or preferring to rent and not having that kind of thing that ties them down or whatever. They just want to have the amenities. They want to have that kind of lifestyle. It's a little bit more carefree in their mind. And that's totally fine. Everybody has to do what feels right for them. What you pointed out about property owners that maybe don't have a gym or something like that kind of amenity on site, offering a discount or something for free with a gym down the road or whatever, that's a great idea for
Right?
investors to consider, I think.
Yoga studios,
Yeah,
right?
another great one. Absolutely. Good stuff. Well,
Mhm.
then let me ask you, if you are the listener who is thinking, like, I want to figure out how to do this, what are maybe some initial steps? You've suggested getting into groups. Is there other things that are steps that you think that they can take to begin this journey?
Yeah, I think the best place to start is with education. And your listeners can feel free to reach out to me. I belong to two major groups who are both in the US and Canada. And I'd be happy to walk them through to take a look at, where they're at in their life. I also have what I call the relax method, where I assess their portfolio, where they can pull funds from, and maybe look at where they want to get and what the timeline is like, and make recommendations to them. And perhaps I could recommend one group over another to them if they like. Yeah, the first thing I would say, join a group, start building your network, or start at minimum, start watching podcasts, start going to meetups locally, like just Google join Facebook groups. There's information in those. But your best bang for your buck really is going to be to join some kind of education. Mhm.
Yeah, that's key. It sounds like is education,
Mm.
beginning to learn about the real estate investing in general, joining groups where you can get this information and this education,
Right.
oftentimes at no cost. So, yeah, the great points. You talked about mindset before, and you have shared that you use some strategies for your own mindset and relaxation, and that's gardening and hot yoga. And so I want to just switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit about how that has helped, that mindset and relaxation has helped you.
Okay. I'm not gonna lie. I've been through some pretty challenging times in my life. You have to have some coping skills, right? Being a business owner, single mom, maintaining my own house, yard and all that kind of stuff. So you need some downtime. You need to be able to reset, to keep a positive mindset. When challenges come up, you need to be able to look at them logically and realize, there'll be a positive outcome just in some way. Every horrible situation can have, a positive outcome. Yeah. So that's what I do. I've been a gardener all my life. That's where I feel grounded. It's about creativity. It's about connecting with the earth and nature. I feed the birds. I have little hummingbirds that come and visit me every morning when I have my coffee. And gardening is very much about texture and color and planning, when one perennial comes up and then the other one's going to come up later, and one's taller and one's shorter, and you cut that back and something else fills in and all those kind of things. That to me has given me control over making beauty, and control over happy things happening. And you know what I mean? So it's really giving me a lot of joy and peace for many years now. The first home that I owned back, I had a little Italian lady next door, and another lady, I think she was about 85 across the street, who were avid gardeners. And they loved the fact that, I didn't know a thing about it then, right? But they would give me perennials and tell me different tips and tricks and all those kind of things. So that's really what started in my gardening journey. And yeah, it's brought me so much peace and joy and a sense of accomplishment too. The few houses I've lived in now, and people always come and say, "Oh, your gardens are so beautiful." Like it looks like a park, your backyard. And it's just a way for me to create and bring balance and peace. And it's a great place to hang out too. It just brings flowers make me smile. That's it. Yeah. Yeah. oh, look at who's opening today, or look at, this one's about to bloom, or, time to cut you back. Are you a little thirsty? Yeah, I talk to them, right?
I love that. Thank you, Jan, for sharing that with us. And it made me think that it's such a great reminder that nature is so restorative. And when we are going through really challenging times in our lives and we feel like there is no end in sight, when you can get back into nature and see the change that happens just naturally, right? Occurring, the growth, the dieback, the rebirth, it's like a reminder that those things are going to happen in our lives too. And so it can help, I think, and you share, bring balance and then just remember that things change. And so if you're going through something terrible, it's not going to always be terrible. It will get better eventually. And yeah, so I think
Yeah, garden therapy too. If I have something really frustrating going on, there's nothing like, I always say my favorite gardening tool is a Sawzall that I go out and like really things that really need to be cut back or dug out or goes to the roots and things like that, or digging deep or things like that. It's great therapy, right? Yeah.
indeed. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Thank you for sharing that with us. I think it's a great reminder for all of us that it's important to have that something that gets us out of our heads and thinking about the stress and the things that are happening in our life and giving us an opportunity to just breathe, and realize that it will get better. So I so appreciate you sharing that with us. And I always love to ask my guests if there's books that they want the listeners to check out. And you have mentioned a couple, Who Not How and Miracle Morning. Is there any others that you think would be beneficial?
I think almost every single real estate investor I talked to started with, as did I, the Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? And that's about changing your mindset from consumer mindset to investor mindset. Buy things that will make you money as opposed to buying things that cost you money. And then you can use the money that you make to buy those things, right? So if anybody, it's just a great book in life to know, even if you're not an investor, just about money mindset. So I highly recommend that, and got both my girls to read that. As you're starting out in life and you're making some decisions, it's really important to have that mindset before you get yourself into financial trouble without any there's so many people are financially illiterate that nobody ever taught them, right? About how money works and mortgages and credit scores and all those kinds of things. And it's can make such a difference in how life goes. So yeah. Anyways, I highly recommend anybody to read that, but especially if you want to get into investing. The other one that I'm reading right now for the second time, like in a row, that I love, it's called The Go-Giver. Are you familiar with that?
No.
It's Bob Berg and John David Mann. So it's about the 5 laws of stratospheric success. So it's fiction. It's a tale about who's trying to get ahead in the corporate world, and he's not having much success. And he seeks out this man who brings him on this journey to meet these 5 different people. And it's all about giving more than you expect back in return, and how that transforms into a magnet, basically. It's the law of attraction, really, is what it boils down to, right? But it's a great book, and it's just a great reminder of really concentrating on giving more value than what you're charging for.
Yeah.
And how that'll just the universe will take care of the rest, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Great recommendation. I'll include that information also in the show notes. Good suggestion. And giving before you're expecting to get back. And when we do that in life, when we give more than we expect to get in return, somehow, like you said, the universe will just provide.
Right. And one of the other things is it talks about the law of influence. So
Mm.
to be able to expand what you're doing to influence the most amount of people, that whatever it is you're doing. The one example is this woman who was a school teacher and how she brought together a couple of the parents, and one was a marketing guy and the other one was a tech guy, and how they came up with this software system and to teach children in a really cool way. And then how it got spread around, to globally, right? And so it's your influence, like it's doing good, but in return you are compensated for it. And that's what they say, your compensation will be reflected by the amount of people that you influence.
Yeah. Good stuff. Is there any podcasts that you want to suggest for the listeners to check out?
I listen to lots. You know who really about mindset, who I listen to a lot during COVID, is Dr. Joe Dispenza, right? So he's great. And because he proves scientifically how you can have physical changes in your body by meditating or, by changing mindset, how you can like really cure diseases and, actual physical changes take place in your body. And they do all these measurements and blood work and all these kind of things. So that, I always believed in that anyways, but just listening to him, that was pretty cool. So I still love him. Mel Robbins, I love her. Right? Like she's just right to the point and she's got great gas. And
Yes.
I just loved I love her approach, right? No nonsense. Yeah. Yeah. So those are a couple of my favorites.
Oh, excellent. Well, thank you, Jan, for sharing those, and great stuff. Joe Dispenza, amazing. All of his books are fantastic. I have read a number of them and I love his stuff. So for sure. And Mel Robbins, you're right. Her podcast is amazing. The guests that she has on, fantastic. So two great recommendations. Thank you for that. Lastly, Jan, before we close out, how can the listeners find you? We've talked about your YouTube channel and you've mentioned your Facebook group, but is there a website that they can go to? How can they find you?
Yeah, I do have my Abode Investments website, mostly Facebook, Instagram, Jan Carmanico-Reeves. I do have my Abode for both of them, and Motivational Mondays. Most active I'm on LinkedIn as well. Yeah, but if anybody wants to reach me, honestly, Facebook Messenger through my personal Facebook page is probably the easiest. And yeah, I'm very active on it. I've got a meeting right after for a guest that's coming on. I've got a discovery call after that about somebody who's looking to invest in one of my projects. But yeah, and that's typically how we start the conversation, is through Facebook Messenger. Very active there.
Excellent. I'll make sure the details are in the show notes for the listeners to find. Jan, thank you so much for coming on the show today. This has been fantastic. And, I really think that you've shared some great points that I hope the listeners have really taken to heart and are using it as an opportunity to expand their mind and realize that there are ways to make these things come true and happen if they get the education and find the network. And so thank you for sharing all of that with us.
Yes, and I encourage anybody to reach out. I'm always happy to talk to newbies, to kind of guide them on what path, might be best for them. And I'm always looking for guests too for my Motivational Mondays, which does get onto YouTube, Investing with Jan. But you don't have to be a real estate investor to be on it. I just like happy stories. A lot of people who have overcome cancer or different kinds of health issues. Just interesting stories. I love talking to people.
Yeah, excellent. Well, thank you for sharing that with us as well. Great stuff. Thank you, Jan, and we'll talk more soon.
Thank you for having me, Desiree.
Thank you, dear listeners, for tuning in to another insightful episode of the Pockets of Knowledge podcast. We appreciate your time and curiosity as we explore fascinating topics together. If you enjoyed today's discussion, be sure to join us next week for another amazing episode. Remember, your journey of learning and growth is a continuous adventure, and we're thrilled to be part of it. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next week, stay curious and keep exploring those pockets of knowledge.